Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international Mandalorian-loving friends, getting together to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, a little bit of television like Mandalorian, and some other things, too. And, of course, joining us here on this glorious Friday is the one and the only, the glorious Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, and long may he reign. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm doing good. I have a hankering for eggs. I don't know why.
Well, we won't say why specifically, but though some of you might be in the know about that and understand what it is we're talking about. Listen, guys, we do have a bunch of things we're going to talk about here today. We're going to talk about, you know that book I was always talking about, Slugfest? Well, that's being turned into a documentary series. Black Adam, we're all excited, it's got a release date, but it looks like it's going to be going head-to-head with Avatar 2. Is that a good idea? We got James Bond maybe walking down the aisle and getting married. This is something I didn't think would be a big deal, but to some people it's a very big deal. The aspect ratio of the first 20 seasons of The Simpsons has got some people talking, that and a few things more. But before we get into anything else, let's go right off the top with this. The brand new episode of Mandalorian. One of the things we were very excited about was Mandalorian was going to be dropping 2 episodes in its first week. And I just finished watching the second one this morning. Loved it. I didn't absolutely love the first one. I liked the first one very much. It set the table, nice starting point. This episode was fantastic. Now, let me get my one big negative out of the way first. My one big negative out of the way is this. Granted, no one from Lucasfilm or Disney ever said this show was going to be hour-long episodes. All right? Nobody ever said that. So can't blame them. I cannot help, though, when I started up the episode and then looked down at the time run bar, because the last episode I was a little bit taken aback. It's like, wait a minute, it's over? And it was 40 minutes, 38 minutes. I wasn't ready for that, and that kind of disappointed me. To see that this episode was going to be 30 minutes long, I'm like, aw. Now, in the world of problems, that's a good problem to have. That it's so good that I was wishing it was more. But you know what? I watched this episode knowing what the length was going to be, and it was the perfect length of an episode. I wanted this to be 8-hour-long episodes. I wanted a 8-hour Star Wars adventure.
Me too.
From Mandalorian. That's where I was at. That's what I was wanting. But I'll tell you what. This one is who directed it? It was Carrie.
No, it was Rick Fuyamaya,
who I always mispronounce his last name.
He directed the movie Dope, right? And he's one of our directors for Flash that came and went.
Yes,
and,
the Flash movie that
he's worked on The Chai. He's done a lot of stuff. I thought this episode was quite well directed.
Well, it was noticeably better directed than the first one. There was just the flow and the cadence of it. I thought was great. And listen, the one thing I said to Robert, for those of you who don't play role-playing games, and I don't mean computer role, I mean real role-playing games, tabletop dice kind of thing. For those of you who don't play role-playing games, you might not get what I'm saying, but for those of you who do play role-playing games, you know exactly what I'm saying. This episode to me felt like I was watching a role-playing game session brought to life. You know what I'm saying? It just felt like a role-playing game adventure that was now being dramatized, and I say that in all the best possible way. Now, I'll go into spoilers and stuff like that a little bit later today. I'll do a spoiler episode once everybody has an opportunity to watch The Mandalorian at some point today. But Rob, you had a chance to watch this episode of The Mandalorian. What did you think of it?
Well, I thought it was a lot of fun. You know, I really enjoyed a lot of it. I had questions. I had canonical Star Wars questions, and I don't want to get into spoilers, but it made me wonder about. I can't even say. I can't even say what it made me wonder about.
Very careful.
It made me wonder about certain Star Wars races and how do they get around and where are they and how. It seems like desert planets in the Star Wars universe all have certain things in common, and I wonder if certain races of people and technology just gravitate toward these planets, and how do they move their equipment from place to place? That was just something I thought about. And the fact that the Mandalorian, He gets his ass kicked a lot. But other than that, I thought that there was, I mean, you had pointed out something that I thought was very astute, which was it felt like a Western serial. Like you'd see, it was an episode of something you'd see in the 40s before the actual movie you went to see would start. And it's got that sort of, there was a little bit of a Raiders of the Lost Ark feeling to this, and people will see why later. And there was a lot of unexpected humor that felt natural to the Star Wars universe. You know, it's not like, I didn't feel like, it wasn't fart jokes or things like that. It wasn't Bantapuru. It wasn't those kinds of jokes. There were some very funny things.
It was organic Star Wars humor.
It was organic Star Wars humor, and there's, along with this race of people that you are very familiar with. And there was a few funny things that I didn't expect. There were two moments that I actually laughed out loud that I thought were pretty good. Now, I know a lot of people might say, this is a filler episode, but this new character this new character that we were introduced to, I think, is delightful. You know, as that character is more fleshed out from when we first saw them at the last episode. And I really love Nick Nolte's character.
Oh, so do I.
And I have spoken's got to be the catchphrase of 2019.
Yeah, it's going to be the phrase of the year.
And I've already seen, I can order my geeky Facebook when something pops up on Facebook. There's already a slew of I Have Spoken t-shirts. I haven't found one that I'm going to buy yet, but they're out there. And for the most part, I'm really digging. This is a different kind of a show, and it really is a Western. It's truly a Western serial set in the Star Wars universe. And now that you've sort of codified that for me, I'm like, all right, that's how I'm going to look at it from now on, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to get you to nudge yourself a little bit to the left a bit. There we go. Anyway, guys, question is, I'll go into more spoilers and stuff like that on a spoiler discussion later today, but the question is, what did you think about The Mandalorian episode 2? I thought it was a big step up from the first one. Even though I liked the first one very much, I thought it was a big step up. What did you guys think? Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's go on to one more thing off the top. And that other thing we're going to do off the top here is this. The movie Charlie's Angels. You know, I've been having a struggle with this movie because I like the franchise of Charlie's Angels. I like the idea of Charlie's Angels. I love Elizabeth Banks. I'm really getting into Naomi Scott. Kristen Stewart is a really underrated talent. She's really good. And, you know, it just holds the potential to be a fun little, you know, action time at the movies. The trailers, however, have been terrible. And I have not expected, and Elizabeth Banks has not, while I love her as a performer especially, she has not wowed me as a director. Like, for instance, that one, I always go back to it, but it's true, that one Pitch Perfect movie she did, you could tell the weakness of the film lay in the direction. So I didn't know what to expect, but then I started hearing not bad things about this Charlie's Angels movies. You know, at the time it was hovering around 65 to 70%, which isn't bad. So Anne says she wants to go see it. So I'm like, all right, let's go see it. Last night we go see Charlie's Angels. And this is what I said in my initial quick reaction review coming out of the theater, and I'll reiterate it here. I can't recommend this movie. Like, I can't say to you, guys, you should go out and see Charlie's Angels. I can't. There are too many weaknesses about it. That being said, if you are somebody who is thinking like, you know what, I want to see this Charlie's Angels, I would not try to dissuade you, because there is upside to this movie. There is definitely fun moments. I actually do dig the chemistry between the three lead ladies. There's some fun little action. It's always fun to see Patrick Stewart. And I will say this as well. Elizabeth Banks' direction has come a long way since that first movie she did, the Pitch Perfect movie she did. You can just tell the way it feels on screen. Her direction has come a long way. So, is this a terrible movie? You know what? It's not. And I looking at the trailers initially, I thought this was going to be an absolutely terrible movie, Rob. Was it a great movie? Can I recommend the movie? No, I cannot. But I would also not dissuade anybody from seeing it, because it does have legitimate upside to it. It does. So I don't regret seeing it. I don't feel like it was a waste of time to see it. There's some things you can take away from it. But overall, I wouldn't recommend to somebody, if they just asked me out of the blue, would you recommend I see Charlie's Angels? Nah, probably not. I mean, if you want to watch it when it comes out on home video, maybe, but I wouldn't recommend taking it even out to go see it. So I don't know if that influences your opinion at all, Rob, about wanting to go see this or not.
I watched the show when I was a kid. I saw the last 2 Charlie's Angels movies. I'm not let's just say motivated to run out and see this. I'm going to see Ford v Ferrari tonight, though.
Where is your expectation level for that right now?
It's way high. It's as high as it goes. Look, do I think Ford v Ferrari is going to change my life? No. But as far as a movie about Le Mans 66, I'm in. I love those characters. I love Matt Damon and I love Christian Bale. Tracy Letts is in it. John Barenthal's in it. I mean, it's just a meat and potatoes, kick-ass. I want to see this movie.
Yeah, so I would say at this point, guys, if you have to choose between going to see Ford v Ferrari, which is my number 4 best film of the year right now, or Charlie's Angels, I'd highly recommend that you lean towards going to see Charlie's Angels.
There's The Good Liar. The Good Liar, too.
Which I was going to see last night, but Anne was more interested in seeing Charlie's Angels because she's really into Naomi Scott right now, too. So I got to go see The Good Liar probably today. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, did some of you have a chance to go see Charlie's Angels? If so, what did you think? Did it disappoint you? Did it exceed your expectations? What do you guys think? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics of the day. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, let's see. It's really rather simple. You guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, fill out the form with your topic or question, keep it to 90 words or less, and if you're quoting a report, make sure you tell me where the report comes from. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on The John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets sent in to us by Muhammad Asad Ali Hussein, who writes, Ben Affleck and Gavin O'Connor are back with a new movie about a former great basketball player who is struggling with alcoholism and he has to coach a team, which results in him confronting his demons. The trailer looks great, but is it the right move for Ben Affleck to do? Something so close to his real life struggle, or could it be considered like a therapeutic journey for him? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, there has been this Ben Affleck movie. We've been talking about this for a while since they announced it. It's called The Way Back. There was 2 other titles that are associated with it. I can't remember what they were right now, but it eventually landed on The Way Back. And I remember when they first announced this movie, Rob, that there was some discussion about, is something like this a good idea? Number one, is it good for Ben to do a movie with this type of thing? Because clearly he struggles heavily with alcoholism and substance abuse. And that's well. I'm not pointing a finger. That's well documented. The other thing was, is it good for the audience who knows? Because Ben Affleck's struggle with substance abuse has been so well publicized that is it something an audience will feel comfortable? And I think that's a fair question. Is this something the audience is going to feel comfortable going to watch? Understanding this is like this guy really deals with these issues, or could that be a little bit uncomfortable for them? I'll say this. The trailer won me over. Because I was asking those questions of myself as well, Rob, when it started to play. I was asking myself those questions. Am I going to be able to watch this? Because, I'm a big Ben Affleck fan. Am I going to be able to see Ben Affleck in this sort of situation, knowing that when the camera's off, that's what he's struggling with, or at least he has? And the Way Back trailer came, I watched it, and it just soaked me in. And I fell for it. And I gotta say, I thought this trailer, this is weird to say for a trailer, I thought the trailer was a triumph. It hooked me emotionally. It got me invested in wanting to see this thing. So I gotta say, I actually think the trailer answered a lot of the questions for me. Now, I still can't speak for a lot of the main, body of the movie-going audience, whether or not they'll feel comfortable or uncomfortable watching this, but I know this. The trailer put me very much at ease and feeling like this is a story I want to see. Rob, you had a chance to watch this trailer. What did you think about the Way Back trailer?
I loved it. I had an emotional response to the end of the trailer. I'm such a sucker for sports underdog stories. I mean, it's one of, dare I say, it's one of my favorite genres. I mean, all the way back to movies like North Dallas 40, with Mac Davis and Nick Nolte playing football. I'm not even a huge sports fan, but there's something about give me a great underdog sports tale. I mean, I guess I equate anybody, the sports team, to gladiators or to downtrodden warriors on a distant planet. I always equate these sports stories to the way that we can have these kinds of tales in our world today. And watching a guy come back and try and coach a raggedy, scrappy team that has no hope of winning, that he puts it together. It's an irresistible paradigm. And I watch this and I'm like, oh, I'm so in. This is like Friday Night Lights, but instead of Coach Taylor being a squeaky clean guy, it's Coach Taylor who's the drunk and who needs to have the terrible kids sort of help him get back to where he wants to be. Irresistible. Affleck looks perfect in this movie. I mean, talk about a method actor. I mean, it just looks, this looks great. And I think, you know what? Kudos to him for taking on this role, because obviously he knew that he was going to have this kind of baggage, but in a way, like our viewer said, therapeutic. Perhaps Muhammad might be right about that. Maybe it was his therapy, but this looks like a slam dunk. I can't wait to see this movie. I'm in.
Yeah, there seems to be a level of catharsis in it, maybe, for that. And listen, I can't help. And listen, and he's working with the director that he's worked with before, with Gavin O'Connor. They worked on the Accountant together.
And you and I are huge Accountant fans.
Love the Accountant.
I do too. I have it on 4K, dude. I got that 4K disc.
I want it. What? Why did you guys not go see it? Because very few people did go see it. I mean,
it's great.
Man, I hope they did. And it was set up to become a franchise.
I know.
And they keep saying they might, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Question here is, guys, did you guys have a chance to watch the trailer for The Way Back? If so, how did you feel? Was it off-putting to see, a guy like Ben Affleck in that role when he has struggled with these things off camera? Or was it oddly appropriate? Was it cathartic for us as audience members to see that? How did you feel about it? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets sent in to us by Gizmo, who writes, so we finally have a release date for Black Adam. My initial reaction was excitement because the wait for this movie has been long, and I also love Shazam. But then I realized that the film comes out 3 days after Avatar 2, and I got concerned about Black Adam's chances of being financially successful with this release date. I know we are 2 years away from both films, but is this something we should be concerned about? All right, thanks a lot for sending in that question, Gizmo. And yeah, you know what? Yesterday, the news dropped right in the middle of the show yesterday. So we talked about it briefly after the 4-minute break. But we were all just so excited about the fact that Mandalorian's here. Or Black Adam's here. I got Mandalorian on the brain. Black Adam's here. We forgot. It's like, oh yeah, it's opening right in the same neighborhood as Avatar 2. Not on the same day, but within a couple of days of Avatar 2. So the question becomes, is this a situation that will be tenable for a Black Adam and an Avatar 2? My initial reaction is that of concern, because on the one hand, not only are these two potentially massive films, but remember, Shazam broke even, but it didn't break the bank. It didn't break the bank. And while Aquaman made $1 billion, DC movies have not exactly flirted with the $2 billion mark. So there's that. But it is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson coming into a comic book movie. So you got to take that into consideration. But Rob, the more I thought about it, what really started to come more and more to my mind was the fact that, you know what? There was a Star Wars movie with a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson action film coming out in the same neighborhood with Jumanji. The Star Wars movie was the #1 box office movie of the year, and the Jumanji movie still almost made $1 billion on its own. $1 billion. Nobody thought Jumanji was going to make $1 billion. Nobody did, except for the few idiots that say every movie coming out is going to make $1 billion. Nobody did. The studio didn't think so. Nobody thought that film was going to make $1 billion, and it came within a hair of the $1 billion mark. With that as a recent precedent, a big popular sci-fi action IP and then opening a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson adventure film beside it, You know what? And remember, this is the Christmas season. Look, more people go to the movies in the summer than any other time of the year. But more people go to the movies in that short Christmas season window than any other window of the year as well. There's a lot of business to go around in that year. Now, you don't want to put 7 big, huge, high-profile genre films in the same week, even if it's Christmas. But we've seen in the past, just recently, a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie can stand up to a big box office juggernaut sci-fi action adventure film, and they can all do well. So, barring Marvel dropping a movie in that week as well, and then maybe a new Star Wars movie dropping in that, maybe Alan Horn decides, yep, I'm going to move ahead with the Mandalorian movie, and I'm going to drop it right in that week. Then I actually think everything can be fine here. Rob, you see this. Is it too much for comfort, or do you think they can both do well? How do you see it?
I think they both can do well. I think that it's funny. We think all genre movies, you group a superhero movie in with a science fiction movie, that they're all the same. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I tend to believe that if people are going to the movies and they're excited about one movie, they get excited about movie going in general. And if these open around a holiday season, as you pointed out, the busiest time of the year to go see movies, people want to catch both things. They're going to go, which are we going to see first? And it becomes a thing. It becomes fun. And I think, look, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is on a streak. Sometimes his movies make more money than others, but everybody loves him. Even Hobbs and Shaw ended up doing quite well worldwide.
Yes, it did.
And people just like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and this is the role I think he was born to play. I mean, if anyone looks the part, he looks the part. He's going to look like the Black Adam as Alex Ross painted him. And I think that it's a movie people are going to go see. My question is, Avatar is going to be over a decade old. It's a decade-old franchise, and they're launching 3 or 4 movies, and I'm really curious to see. I never bet against James Cameron, at least when he's directing. So we shall see what happens. But I'd be more worried about Avatar than this Black Adam.
Well, I mean,
film.
we've said at length, this is a movie that should have come out 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Avatar 2 should have come out 5 years ago. The original film, while a monumental global phenomena that held the #1 spot at the box office for almost a decade, it didn't have a lasting pop cultural footprint. You know what I mean?
A whole generation's grown up and they watch Avatar on TV, but they're like, "What's the big deal?"
Yeah, you don't see kids. I mean, this may sound silly, but honestly, this means you don't see kids running around on Halloween in Avatar costumes anymore. The first year that it was out, you totally did. You don't see it anymore. They still wear Heath Ledger's Joker. They still wear stormtroopers. They're still whatever. So I'm very, very curious about the Avatar situation. Look, it's a James Cameron movie. It's gonna make probably $1 billion. It's not going to be what the first one was, but it's going to be hugely successful. But I think multiple films can be successful. Question here is, guys, how do you think this is all going to play out? Do you think there's going to be one loser out of the two? Do you think they're both going to do great? Do you think maybe they'll both do badly? How do you see it? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Heston, who writes, "Just finished the book Slugfest that you've recommended numerous times, and almost within the hour I hear news that the Russo brothers are making a documentary entitled Slugfest on Marvel and DC's competitive history. Does this have anything to do with the book?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Heston. And yes, I think it was about a year ago, one of our viewers sent in a message saying, "John, you might want to really check out this new book, Slugfest, the 50-year battle between Marvel and DC." I thought, that sounds fascinating. So I did. I took the advice. I went out and got it. Loved it. It is a fascinating book, guys. Go get it. If you don't like to read, get the Audible version. It is a fascinating story that I think will really give you a deeper appreciation for all this. Now, you're asking about whether or not this new Slugfest thing by the Russos has anything to do with it. Well, actually, it does. The series is inspired by Reed Tucker's book Slugfest, inside the epic 50-year battle between Marvel and DC. The competition between the publishers actually dates back to the FDR years and the publication of Action Comics #1, which introduced Superman and launched DC, and Marvel Comics #1, which introduced Namor the Submariner. But it was the revolutionary 1960s relaunch of Marvel by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Steve Ditko that gave the rivalry an urgency that transformed the marketplace. Rob, I can't remember, honestly, if you had a chance to check out Slugfest. But, and so you haven't.
I've never read the book. I own the book.
Oh, you do?
I have not read the book.
Crack into it. Because this is real life Mad Men. I mean, seriously, the drama, and I'm not talking on the comic page, the interpersonal drama, the back channel dealing, the double crossing, and the corporate competitiveness, and it is your eyes get glued to the page. Your eyes get absolutely glued to the page. This is a wonderful book, and I am not sponsored by Slugfest, but damn it, I should be, because I'm probably responsible for half of their book sales, because I've talked about this damn book so much. But it is so good. It's so good. For them to do a documentary on it, I think is fascinating. I think it's a really, really good idea. And the one question, and this seems petty, but the one question I have, though, is, are the Russo brothers the right guys to do it? And that is not a question of ability. It is a question of the Russos are clearly Marvel men. They're Marvel men. And while Slugfest is a very fair and balanced book, my concern is that there will be, people who are entrenched in the Marvel versus DC fandom that will look at anything that looks remotely, even if it was a real life situation that even remotely made Marvel look more favorable than DC, people are going to point their fingers and scream bias. I don't know that they're the right guys to do it, simply not because of them, but because of how others unfairly may look at it. But still, the project on its own, I think, sounds fascinating. I'd love to see, this in documentary form. I'm really interested by this. Rob, you hear about this. Is this a good thing to take on, or do you think it's just a fool's errand? How do you feel about it?
No, I think it's really interesting. It's a story that people haven't really heard, especially people outside of the comic book realm. And I think that they can be objective about it. I think what's interesting is the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it exists now is not really a part. I mean, I'm sure they will take it up to where it is now, but you're talking about, like, they're talking about beginning in the World War II era, and bringing it up into the 60s. I mean, it was very apropos that you mentioned the Mad Men era, because that's what was going on. All these guys knew each other. It was all New York based. I mean, they walked past each other on the streets every day, commuting to work. I mean, it's an interesting milieu. I think they're going to concentrate on the past, and I think it's going to be great. I can't wait to see something like this dramatized. Although, I know I haven't read the book, but it's ultimately guys sitting in bullpens drawing pictures and writing and figuring out.
But it's crazy how much the business gets, like, for instance, like there are entire chapters that came about the real battle that went on, because remember, guys, there weren't comic book stores.
Right.
It was the local drugstore and convenience store that had the spinning racks with comics, and the political battles about who gets their comics in the higher profile racks. Which company first started using the higher quality paper? How did they get the supply chain to work? I mean, it's all this minutia, this logistical minutia that becomes incredibly dramatic as you're reading this, and the back channel dealings, and it's unbelievable. And then if you think Stan Lee, but man, Stan Lee was a man of, many of us will remember Stan as this jovial, the senior representative, the guy we all owe it all to. Stan Lee was a man of insane hubris. Like, insane hubris back in the day, which won him a lot of friends and made him a lot of enemies. But it's crazy the way it plays out, and it makes me want to go back and read the book again.
Yeah, well, now I'll have to pick that up. I'm reading Paul Hirsch's book on editing now, because he was one of the editors on Star Wars. His new book just came out, but I can only imagine we're going to raise the price from 10 cents to 12 cents. No, we can't do that.
Outcry. I mean, it's crazy. That goes in the price, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, guys, have you had a chance to read Slugfest? Even if you have or haven't, how do you feel about this potential documentary coming out? Jump down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to the fourth and probably most important topic of the day. And our fourth and probably most important topic of the day comes to us from Giovanni G. Good name, Giovanni. Greetings, fellow Giovanni. Like Rob, I've been waiting anxiously for a No Time to Die trailer, and as I was looking around for information, I came across a report that said James Bond is actually going to be getting married in this one. Not sure how I feel about that. What are your thoughts, and do you think there's any validity to the report? All right, so thanks a lot for that. And yeah, there is a story floating around right now that in No Time to Die, that James Bond gets married to the main Bond girl from not Skyfall. What was the most recent one?
Spectre, Lea Seydoux.
Yeah, Lea Seydoux from Spectre. Which raises a lot of interesting conversations. On the one hand, you know, the notion of James Bond settling down seems almost sacrilege. I get that. On the other hand, there's another side of my brain that goes, well, you know, it's actually a good logical evolution of the character. Look, the Daniel Craig James Bond, not just Daniel Craig himself, but the Daniel Craig James Bond, is a character teetering on retirement, right? That's kind of been suggested and played into these movies already. And it could be a guy that's now looking differently at his life, and he believes he's found his perfect partner and decides at some point to settle down. It's actually not inconsistent when you follow this James Bond that has had a definitive story arc through his movies, which is kind of unusual for Bond. But he is a James Bond that's nearing, if not at the end of his career, and maybe looking at life a little differently. At the same time, it's James Bond. He's not supposed to settle down. So you can have that whole debate and all that and well. And I do want to get Rob's thoughts on that. But before we get to Rob's thoughts on that, the one thing that we all got to keep in mind is this. The report does not exactly come from a real credible source. All the articles that you're reading on this are all getting their story from the exact same place, which is, I believe it's the Daily Mail out of the UK. Not always wrong. Not always right. So it's questionable. So I would say a fun discussion to have, but keep this main caveat, this big asterisk floating above our heads that I think there's a very, very solid chance that this is not true at all. It could be, might not be. But for the sake of the discussion, Rob, they have done things with this Daniel Craig Bond that they really haven't done with other Bonds in the past. And I'm saying that on the one hand, it feels weird to have him get married, but on the other hand, if I think about it, with the way they've handled this particular Bond, maybe it feels like a logical conclusion to his Bond. I don't know. As the bigger Bond fan in the room, being you, let's assume for a moment, we'll get to whether there's validity to this report in a second, but just for the sake of the discussion right now, let's assume for the moment that the report is accurate, and we're going to see James Bond get married in this film. As a lifelong Bond fan, how do you feel about that?
Well, we've seen Bond get married before.
Well, yes,
in 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service, he marries Teresa Bond. She becomes Teresa Bond, they have a beautiful wedding, Diana Rigg, one of the great Bond girls, and she gets assassinated by Blofeld at the end of the movie. And it's probably the most shocking ending for any Bond film. And the Bond theme comes over the end credits when over the bullet hole that was shot in the window of the car, and it's hardcore. You know, I mean, she dies, she gets killed, and then we see Bond, Roger Moore's incarnation of Bond, visiting her grave at the opening of For Your Eyes Only before he gets into the helicopter. Now, so that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me that Bond is getting married or that he is already married. What I have found strange, like you pointed out, John, in this Bond series is Casino Royale, which I loved. We saw Bond get his 00 status. And then we saw him being Bond in Quantum of Solace. And then in Skyfall, the third movie, he's lost a step. He gets shot off a train and he's hanging out getting drunk on some island before he comes back. He has to be retrained again. And in Spectre, he's like also old, which is, he's never really had a movie where he was full on James Bond. And now he's retired already. So we've sort of seen his compressed agent's life, whereas with Sean Connery, there was only when he came back and played Bond in 1983 and Never Say Never Again, they played that whole, well, you know, you're old now and blah, blah, blah. But it's sort of odd that Bond has been in this Well, he's been in his twilight years for a lot of the time he's played Bond. So I'm like okay with it. I'm okay that he's married. Probably is married. I think the report's probably true. He's living the life. You know, he's living in Jamaica. He's retired. He's kicking it. And then he gets dragged back into the world is imperiled by Rami Malek. I'm all for it. I'm like, why shouldn't he be married? You know, I'm wondering if they'll ever acknowledge if he is married that has been married before, or it's a new continuity. Like, how are they going to play that? It's really interesting because Daniel Craig's incarnation of Bond has never been married before.
Right.
You know, so how are they going to do that? Or are they just going to pretend? I mean, Bond continuity has always been fast and loose anyway.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how it's handled. And you know what? I mean, Lea Seydoux, if you haven't seen Blue is the Warmest Color, one of my favorite, by the way, perhaps my favorite comic adaptation of all time, just saying, you should check it out.
And if he's going to settle down with anybody. And listen, the funny thing is, too, is that Daniel Craig, he's still a relatively young guy. I mean, it's not like he's 70. The dude's 51 years old. So it's like he's still a relatively young dude, so it's kind of interesting to playing that. Anyway, guys, question is, how do you feel about that whole thing? Would you be down? Do you even believe the report? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Crazy Joe, who writes, much has been made on Twitter and in the news articles on various websites over the fact that Disney Plus is streaming the first to 20th seasons of The Simpsons in the wrong aspect ratio. Do you think this chatter is enough to convince Disney to change it to the original ratio, or are they too busy swimming in Scrooge McDuck's money to care? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And for those of you who don't know what the hell Crazy Joe is talking about, and I'm sure many of you don't, here's the basic situation. There are 30 years of The Simpsons that are on Disney Plus, which is one of the big coup d'etats for Disney Plus. I know a number of my friends, not so much interested in The Mandalorian, but they want access unfettered to all The Simpsons. That's a big deal for a number of people. But Simpsons being around for that long, it stretches back into the days when the standard television format aspect ratio was 4:3. The aspect ratio that all televisions were, that when you saw movies in the wider aspect ratio caused the black bar. Why do they put black bars on the bottom and the top? Dad, they don't put black bars. And this is a real conversation I had my dad with many times. Dad, they don't put black bars on the bottom and the top. They're just showing you the entire picture from left to right. And because of that aspect ratio, it just leaves empty space, but they're not putting in black bars. But why do they put in black bars? Never mind, Dad. Never mind. There's a lot of seasons of The Simpsons that are in the 4:3 aspect ratio. Apparently, and I haven't watched it myself, Rob, apparently what they have done now is for even those seasons, because today's televisions are not 4:3. As a matter of fact, there's an entire generation right now that has never had a television that's in the 4:3 aspect ratio, which is odd to think about. Now, granted, not like 25-year-olds, but there is a younger generation that's never had a 4:3 television. And so Disney made the decision to convert the aspect ratios to fit modern televisions. So it would not have, as my dad would say, why they put in the black bars on the left and the right. Dad, they're not putting in the black bars on the left and the right. But anyway, they made the decision to do that. So essentially what's happening is they have stretched out the image. They've broadened the image. They've expanded the image so that it fills from left to right on the television, which does mean that you're going to lose a little bit of the footage off the top and the bottom, because those are going to be pushed off the top of the screen, off the bottom. So you're going to lose a little bit of the image. It's what's going to happen. This, Rob, I didn't think this would be a big deal to anybody. It has become a big deal to several people. There are a number of people online who are very upset by this. And I'm going to tell you right now what my thought on this is, Rob, so it doesn't sound like I'm just trying to mimic whatever yours is. Honestly, and people are going to get mad at me for saying this, it's the right move. It's the right move, and here's why. Here's why. I get it. The purists right now are dialing 911 on the phone. I get it, but here's why it's the right move. understanding that there's a whole generation of people right now who've never even had 4x3 TVs.
Right.
It's just going to be very odd and off-putting and awkward to them to turn it on and have it in a 4x3 aspect ratio. And the fact of the matter is that is what today's standard is. That's now, yes, I'm not saying it's no big deal that you lose some. It is an issue. It is an issue that we're going to lose some of the footage off the top and the bottom. But the reality is, if they're serving this up, the majority of their audience, you may disagree with this, and that's fine, but the majority of the audience is going to be more comfortable with a Simpsons episode filling their TV screen. That's just the aspect ratio they're more accustomed to than not. And I'm going to tell you what, I think more people, if you put a nationwide vote on it, I feel pretty confident in saying safely the vote to make it 16:9 would probably defeat soundly those of us who might say we would like it to be 4x3 maintained. I understand the argument. I completely do. And I don't think people are wrong to saying it's a more proper and pure viewing experience of those things to keep the whole picture and to keep it in its original aspect ratio. I'm not debating that. I think you're right. But I think the benefits that Disney sees in doing it the other way kind of outweighs it. Now, I know that that'll make me not very popular, but it's where I can see both sides of the argument, and I happen to lean towards the one. If I'm a Disney exec and I had to vote, I'd say, yeah, I vote to make it 16:9. It's going to make more people happy. But that's just kind of my thoughts on it. Rob, as a guy who's like really invested in it, knows a lot about even the technical history of entertainment mediums and things like that, I'm dying to know, where do you fall on this 16:9 versus the 4x3 aspect ratio debate?
For me, okay, obviously my first choice would be to preserve the original aspect ratio always. But like you pointed out, we have a whole generation of people that don't quite understand it. I worked on the Star Trek The Next Generation restoration. I
remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, and it's 4x3. It can't be 16:9, and nobody understood that. At the same time, a friend of mine was working on the X-Files, which the first, I think, 4 seasons were 4x3, and then they moved over to a widescreen aspect ratio to 16:9. They went and they redid the first seasons of X-Files in 16:9 because it was kind of protected for that. So although the filmmakers were not involved, one of the worst television restorations ever was what they did to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. 4x3 show that they completely destroyed when they made it 16:9. My thoughts are the showrunners, are the producers of the show involved? And if they are involved, do they have approval over how the show has been redefined in terms of its aspect ratio? Because are you cutting off a joke? Is there something by recomposing the frame? Are you missing something? A lot of people might not know. If you're not intimately involved with the show, and I know they had done this before. I don't think it was Disney that did this. I think they acquired these masters in already, so it had already been done. But I think, look, unfortunately, especially with The Simpsons, I don't think, and this is going to get me skewered, I'm sure. Is it, say, as important as a Terrence Malick movie? Like, I would rather have a recomposed Simpsons episode than, say, Terrence Malick's Tree of Life butchered.
Right.
It really depends. I mean, this is animation where, the edges of the frame aren't necessarily crucial to understanding or to experiencing The Simpsons as it was meant to be seen. But I always think, look, always involve the filmmakers if you're going to do it. If you're not involving the filmmakers, why? But secondly, just be careful. Put some thought into what you're doing. And I understand, look, sometimes it can be stretched out. If it's blown into, that's one thing. But if it's stretched out so Homer's even wider than he already is.
So it skews the image?
Yeah. So what you're doing is you're literally, you have a 4x3 image, you would zoom in to make it a 16:9 image, but sometimes they pull the image out like BBC America.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
That's horrifically awful. So I haven't seen how they've done it. I haven't looked, and now I'm going to go home and watch.
Yeah. I got to get on that too. So anyway, that should. But this is one of those things, guys, where I see both sides of the argument. But I do get, if you're Disney, it's going to be. There's a lot of people that are going to find it very off-putting if they turn it on and it's 4x3. Now we can have the argument about whether they should feel put off by it, but whether they should or shouldn't is kind of irrelevant.
I mean, there's 50 years of 4x3 television. I'm not going to not watch it because it's 4x3.
That's true. But there are some people who won't watch movies just because they're black and white.
Oh, I know. And those people are dead to me. All of them.
You're all dead to me. Anyway, guys, question is, where do you fall on this? Like, I honestly, I think we're making a little bit too. I think there's probably going to be a few sight gags here and there that we might lose some of its punch, but over 36 years, is it that big of a deal? I don't know. Maybe it is. Do you guys think we should be taking this more seriously? Do you think we shouldn't be talking about it at all? What do you guys think? Jump down in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our live questions. But before we get to our live questions, we are going to take just a moment here, guys, take a little bit of a break, rest up the vocal cords, refill our drinks, stretch our legs a little bit. So if you guys will just hang tight with us for a couple minutes, we got a whole ton of live questions from you guys. We'll get right to them as soon as we're back. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a moment. are back. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your indulgence as we took a few minutes to refill our drinks. Now, let's get things going over here and start taking your live questions. And we're going to get started off on our live questions with the first one coming to us from Hector Jeter. It says, I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold, which is a great bounty hunter thing to say. Of course, that's the line from the first episode of The Mandalorian. I love that line. Betty95 says, 3 more days till Disney Plus is here in... Now, help me out. Is AUS Austria or Australia?
Australia.
It is Australia. Great. Australia! I'm glad you guys are going to be able to get that. That's fantastic.
Good on you, mate.
Tom Gillard writes, my crush works at a game store and gave me a sweet discount on Fallen Order. That means she likes me, right? Absolutely it does. 100%. You should completely sell everything you own and buy her a huge lavish gift. No, that's terrible advice. That's terrible advice I just gave. But it does remind me, Fallen Order is now out. I'm getting that today. I actually probably shortly after we're done the show, not long after we're done the show, I'm going to get myself that game. Are you planning on getting that one at all?
I am going to get that game. I haven't been as excited for I mean, Battlefront's cool, but the last Star Wars game that I got obsessed with was Force Unleashed, the first one.
Right. I was really into the Old Republic, the Warcraft style game. I really like that one a lot.
Well, it's got like a Forced Unleashed feel.
It does.
Not Forced Unleashed, a Force Unleashed feel. And I've been watching gameplay videos. It looks dope, man. I can't wait to play it.
I'm excited to try it out. Okay, next one up comes to us from Benny95, writes, Jedi Fallen Order has such a great story. I really think it could be a TV series / film later on Disney Plus. Also, you can customize your own lightsaber in-game. Really? That sounds kind of exciting. I'm for many reasons, I'm excited to try this out. Now, who knows? Maybe I download it, play it for 10 minutes, and give up on it. I don't know. But I'm anticipating really getting into it because the cinematics on it look fantastic. And not the cinematic, the gameplay footage looks like a lot of fun, so I'm excited. And it's Star Wars, so I'm kind of looking forward to getting to that. Vrinder Singh writes, 1 of 3. Hey, John, I'm at a real low point in my life with health problems, but listening to your show is keeping me going, so thank you very much. I love Star Wars, but it's such a shame that I can't watch your Dark Side, Light Side show because you'll be talking openly about Mandalorian. We are. Disney Plus in the UK, and I think most of Europe doesn't start till the 31st of March this year. I can't believe it. And then he continues on to write, it'll be absolutely impossible to avoid spoilers for 4 months. But the last straw will be if something in Mandalorian ties into episode 9. Sorry I haven't been Super Chat for a while, but I'm still Patreon supporters and always will be. Well, hey, listen, Brenner, hopefully, and you know what, that is one of the great things about the online fan communities is that even I know when I'm under the weather and I'm sick or whatever, I can sit back, pop on my favorite channel and participate in stuff like that. And that's great. So I hope you feel better soon, Vrinder. It is a big problem. And believe me, that is something that not only I think about here for the main channel, the main show, Rob, but also like specifically for it's something Christian and I have talked about for Dark Side, Light Side, because it's a Star Wars show. We can't pussyfoot around episodes, which isn't a movie, it's a TV show, and new episodes are coming out each week. But there's a lot of the world that hasn't seen it. And that's a problem for us. Believe me, you bring up a very valid issue, Verder, because that was a struggle. Ultimately, we decided, listen, it's Star Wars. It's out publicly. We have to talk about it. And we have to talk about it openly. And even though that means through no control of our own, I mean, we can't wait for 5 months to talk about a Star Wars show openly. We just can't. That's an impossible situation that we've been put in by this thing. So I get it. And believe me, Vrinder, I get it. If you are one of these people who live in one of our international friends who doesn't have Disney Plus yet because it's not available yet, and you've chosen not to pirate it or anything like that, I totally get the need to avoid our Dark Side, Light Side show. I get it. It's just one of those impossible situations. One of the things I will say, though, Rob, I think it is 100% guarantee there is nothing that's going to be in The Mandalorian that becomes required viewing in order to properly understand Star Wars Episode 9. They're not. I 100% guarantee that that's not going to be the case. There might be a cute little Easter egg in Mandalorian that teases Episode 9, but there will be not anything in Mandalorian that if you're watching Episode 9 going, I don't understand what just happened. Right. Oh, well, then you didn't clearly watch Mandalorian Episode 7. Now, there's not going to be any of that. I 100% guarantee it. Rob, do you think they could? I mean, I think there's a possibility they could tease episode 9, but nothing that's going to be pre-required viewing. But how do you see it?
No, I don't think there's... Hell, I don't even think you need to see Force Awakens or Last Jedi before you can understand Rise of Skywalker, to be honest. Because Last Jedi kind of ended in a certain place. But no, I think, remember, The Mandalorian takes place 20 years before what's going on in Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
It takes place 10 years or 8 years, but 10 years after Jedi or something. So no, I don't think that there's going to be anything tied in to the movie. And nor should there be. I mean, what I love about this, even though we're getting there's a lot of fan service going on in The Mandalorian that I love. I mean, something happens in the second episode that I kind of wanted to see for a long time since I first saw Star Wars. And it was delightful to watch. It was an action scene. I'm like, this is really cool. I really enjoyed it. And I think it's going to be unto itself. I think it's going to exist unto itself in its own little world. Sure, it has all of these tie-ins to the Star Wars universe, but not to the Skywalker saga. It's just a story that's taking place elsewhere. And I like that about this show.
By the way, without giving any spoilers away, there is a shot in Mandalorian episode 2. For those of you who've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a shot in episode 2 that is such an homage to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So if you've seen the episode 2, you'll know exactly the shot I'm talking about. It was such a perfect homage to something that happens in Indiana Jones. It's kind of great. But yes, again, I don't think there's anything you need to worry about on that level of render. I really don't. All right. Sam Fisher writes, I read the Slugfest book. So I feel like I missed something. Did I miss something? Yes, I did. Sorry. Angel Palma writes, is the Netflix Nickelodeon deal true? Thoughts? I'll be honest with you, 100%. I couldn't give two drips of urine about Nickelodeon. I'm not one of the kids that grew up watching Nickelodeon. I don't care about Nickelodeon, so I honestly have no idea what's going on with the Nickelodeon. I've been hearing some whispers, but other than that, I don't know anything about it. Rob, do you know anything about it?
No, but I would imagine, with Paramount and MTV networks or whatever being closely related now with Netflix, with the Beverly Hills Cop deal. Of course, they had the Cloverfield deal and Annihilation before that. Why wouldn't they? I mean, I think we're going to see Paramount partnering up with Netflix because they don't have their own streaming service.
So that could be significant.
Yes.
That could be very significant. All right. Sam Fisher writes, I read the Slugfest book. So good. Read it. Absolutely. 100% everybody. Listen to Sam Fisher. You really should check out this. If you're at all interested in the comic book industry, it's fascinating. It really is. Kenneth Colton writes, we made it to the weekend, Gio. James Cameron should have done one sequel like 5 years ago. All this time he is spending on the Avatar franchise makes me think what other films he would have done. And Rob, I have said all along, now don't get me wrong, I don't think Robert Rodriguez did a bad job with Alita Battle Angel. I really don't. But I'm sorry, I had been waiting a decade because James Cameron's been sitting on this Alita Battle Angel movie for well over a decade.
Yes.
But I had been waiting for over a decade for a James Cameron directed Alita Battle Angel. A lot of people want to see, and I think Miller did a fine job with Terminator Dark Fate. I had been waiting for a James Cameron directed new Terminator film. And this whole wrapping the 100% investment that James Cameron's made into the one franchise and one franchise only to the detriment of everything else, I don't think was a good move on his part. The fact that he's invested himself in, has been spending all these years trying to develop everything he needs to make 4 more Avatar films when he could have been making the next, not True Lies 2, but making the next True Lies, making the next Terminator, making Alita Battle Angel. And again, no disrespect to what Robert Rodriguez pulled off with that movie. It is a shame. How do you see that, Rob?
Well, I look at it this way. I think James Cameron, his real life, going down to the bottom of the Marianas Trench or Ghosts of the Abyss or whatever it is he's doing, I think what Avatar is for him, it's become his lifelong sort of treatise on here's how we can save the planet. He's doing it like all great science fiction. It's all allegorical. And I think he really believes that these Avatar movies are a crusade. This is going to be his statement that he's making to all of humanity. Here's what we need to do through the lens of a science fiction fantasy adventure. Here's what we as humanity can do to save our planet, save our oceans, save our air. And that's what the underlying meaning of all this is going to be. And I think that's why he's doing it. And I think it's going to be ultimately his life's work. That said, I would love to have seen more Cameron action adventure movies or science fiction movies, just because I'm selfish that way. But I'm hoping that we're going to get something that's so special with these Avatar movies that we'll forget all of that, because Cameron's been doing the R&D for the industry for the last 30 years. So, the pseudopod in the abyss led to the T-1000, which allowed ILM to make dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, which allowed him to create Cameron to create the Titanic, which led us to Avatar. So I'm hoping that what we're going to see is going to be mind-blowing, and it's going to affect the industry for years to come.
All right, let's move on here. Next up is Curtis Lopez, who writes McClunky.
Man, has that played out? It took a couple of days, and it's played out.
Just a couple of days, and it's already completely...
Since Tuesday.
That's all we've seen, but true, McClunky. All right, Out of Time writes, John, over under 25%, we see a flashback or force vision of something from the original trilogy or prequel trilogy in Rise of Skywalker, a.k.a. Return of the Jedi fight. I'm thinking it is unlikely. But I'll go over 25% because I don't think it's incredibly impossible that it could happen. If I had to, it's under 50%, but I would go over. I guess I would take over 25, but I still don't think it's likely. Rob, what do you think?
I think there's going to be some callback. I'm going to go over 25. I think something.
All right. Darth Wayne 97 writes, number 10, Big Hero 6. I love Big Hero 6. Number 9, Winter Soldier. Number 8, Ragnarok. Number 7, Guardians 1. Number 6, Scott Pilgrim. Number 5, Joker. Number 4, Infinity War. Number 3, Logan. Number 2, Endgame. Number 1, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Of course, this is a throwback to our topic the other day about what have been the best comic book movies of this decade, and some real great films on the... Rob, it just reminds us just how good.
Yeah, but it also reminds me that I'm really angry that I forgot to put blue is the warmest color as my number one.
Because I don't think I would have counted it.
Yeah, but it's still based on a comic book.
I know. You could say the same thing about Road to Perdition.
I know.
And you can say, but let's face it, when we know what we're talking about when we say comic book movies, right? We know what we're talking about when we say comic book movies. So anyway, I would have disqualified the entry.
I know.
Disqualify, I say. All right, next up, Sunila Shetty writes, watch Charlie's Angel. The movie felt like a music video. Certain shots and music felt like I was watching a high-quality music video. You know what? I do not disagree with your assessment. Which brings along with it some upside, but also has a bunch of inherent downside. And it is, look, Charlie's Angels is not a terrible movie. It's not terrible. I would not go watch it again. I would not recommend it. But I don't regret seeing it. You know what I mean? So I think there are going to be some people that fall a little more to the positive side. Some people will fall a little bit more to the negative side, but it wasn't a complete waste of time. Frankie Gouge writes, laying around after surgery yesterday, rewatching nice thing to watch, Godfather, because, you can see Vito recovering from his surgery. The christening scene interlaced with action is one of the best scenes of all time. It is, listen, there are actually a number of moments in The Godfather that you can chalk up to being, this is one of the greatest moments of all time in film. Whether it's Sonny at the toll booth, which, oh my God, that scene is like crazy. Settling family accounts at the end of the film. There's just The Godfather, listen, to me, the greatest movie of all time is the original Star Wars trilogy. Yes, I count it as a movie. Fine, sue me. But there are a lot of cinephiles who, for very good reasons, will hold up The Godfather as the greatest film ever made. And while it may not be mine, it's hard to argue against it, Rob. I mean, it's just one of those seminal films, right?
I'm one of those people. I mean, I was talking about it on my own YouTube show the other day about what The Godfather sort of means to me. And it's, Francis Ford Coppola, while, yes, it's based on basically an airport novel, Mario Puzo's novel is not great, but Coppola said The Godfather is about a king and his 3 sons and the defense of the realm, as it were. And if you look at it that way, it is truly a mythic movie that transcends space and time. It transcends the period piece that it is, post-World War II, New York City, the mafia, all that. And it is a movie that all the great truths, John, all the great truths are contained in The Godfather. Never tell anyone outside the family what you're thinking.
Yep.
It ain't personal, it's just business. I mean, you want to do business with me? I will do business with you. And you can't go to Las Vegas and talk to a guy like Mo Green like that.
All right. Let's see. Next up here, Sam O'Neill writes, Hey, John, Disney Plus is coming to Australia on Tuesday. I was unbelievably keen for The Mandalorian, but my excitement level for Jeff Goldblum's show is going through the roof. I am so keen, dude. Today I'm going to take care of that.
Bruh, you got to watch it.
I still haven't watched it yet. I just haven't had time. I am so excited to watch this Jeff Goldblum show.
I hope that show goes on forever. I've seen one episode of it. Jeff Goldblum should just spend the rest of his career traveling around the world, meeting people and watching them do stuff.
And doing interesting little things.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it just looked, I remember they showed us the big preview for it at D23, and I'm like, because listen, on its surface, I thought, this sounds lame. When I just heard about the show, Jeff Goldblum traveling around the country doing interesting things. Okay, well, Jeff Goldblum's really cool, but that sounds kind of like, and then they showed us a preview, I'm like, oh, I'm all about this show. I am all about this show. I cannot wait to watch this damn thing. All right, next up, Gabriel Reed writes, I've been showing my girlfriend a lot of movies she's never seen before, including Star Wars. So the other day I introduced her to Villeneuve's Prisoners. She doesn't trust me anymore.
Yeah.
Listen, that movie is, that's a movie made by the hand of a master. That's an incredible movie. I don't know if that's a movie I sit down and say, hey, honey, let's sit down and watch a fun movie together. That's kind of heavy. That might have been a misstep, Gabriel. I'm not going to lie to you. That might have been a misstep. It's like saying, hey, what do you want to do tonight? Let's watch Schindler's List. Okay. Like, might have been a little bit of a misstep, my buddy. I'm not going to lie to you. You should have asked me before you did that. All right, JB Bonifacio writes, the lateness of the review embargo worried me, but I'm 2 hours into Fallen Order, and it's a great mix of Star Wars / Uncharted / Arkham Asylum 10 out of 10. Well, you know, somebody brought that up the other day, Rob.
That sounds great to me.
It sounds fantastic. Somebody brought up the other day, it's like, John, should we be worried that they have not allowed the reviews to come out for the game? And what I said in response to that, I said, well, if this was a movie, yes, it's a giant red flag. But this is an entirely different industry that functions differently. So I said, I'm not a video game journalist. Like, I'm not plugged into that. So I don't even know if it's all that unusual. So, but I'm hearing good things this morning. I have not read any of the official reviews, but I'm seeing a lot of people chatter on Twitter saying they really like the game. Have you seen anything about it yet so far?
No, I mean, I've just been watching a lot of stuff. I've read a lot of stuff about it. It looks like a tremendous game to me, and it's great to hear that it's getting a 10 out of 10 from people. You know, between Jedi Fallen Order and Death Stranding, I mean, people are excited about video games. I mean, I guess they always are, but we've got two really significant games that have come out, and I'm interested in both of them.
All right, next up here, we've got Derek Jeter who writes, loved Chapter 2 of Mandalorian. The first 10 minutes was just nerd joygasm for me. Had a smile on my face the entire 32 minutes of it. Wish they were longer. I'll tell you what, I loved this episode, man. I absolutely loved this episode. And you know what? A lot of times some TV shows will call their episodes Chapter 1, Chapter 2. It's like, it doesn't feel like that at all. This really does feel like Chapter 1, Chapter 2. It really does, at the different events that are transpiring, leading us somewhere that we're going. It feels like a serialized Western. It feels like a dramatized role-playing game, adventure being played out. I am eating it up. And this is one of the things I said to Rob before we started. I said, one of the things that I'm recognizing, and I think the better direction of episode 2 really brought this home for me, is that there is something beautiful in the simplicity of The Mandalorian. There's a beautiful simplicity to it that really just hones in and focuses on the things that we're looking for. Which, look, when we approach Star Wars, there's a lot of things we can get out of Star Wars. But to me, the first thing I'm personally looking for is adventure. I'm looking for adventure when I turn to a Star Wars anything, a Star Wars game, a Star Wars book, a Star Wars movie, whatever. There's a lot of other things that you can get out of it too. I am getting that heavy dose of adventure sense from Mandalorian so far. So that, to me, is what's working for me. Rob, if you had to pinpoint one thing for you that is working most for you for Mandalorian right now, what would you say it is?
Oh, well, along what you just said, I like how sparse it is. I like how it's not full of stuff. You know, it's very classical in its construction. It's very simplistic in terms and but also mythic at the same time. I'm really sort of enjoying that. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when I was a kid playing with my Star Wars action figures, the stories that I would make up in my head.
Nice.
You know, and that's what I feel like I'm watching. I feel like I'm watching a story that I would have of course taken my Boba Fett figure, but this is something I would have had going on in my head that I could have recreated in my bedroom or something. There's something about it that I really like.
Yeah, it's working for me a lot on that level as well. All right, let's move on here. Johnny Grenda writes, I can't wait for Avatar 2 and more Blue Gamora. Zoe Saldana is my future wife. She just doesn't know it. I've often pulled a Jeff Goldblum and refer to I would refer to Lupita Nyong'o as the future ex Mrs. Campea. Yeah, no, she's great. And listen, tell you what, I have had a chance to actually get together, meet and sit down and chat with Zoe Saldana on a couple of occasions. And she is, just to add to your goals in life here, Johnny, she's delightful on every level. She really is. She's well-spoken. She's articulate. She's just a pleasure to be around. So hopefully someday you get a chance to meet her, dude. All right, Richard Karate writes, instead of having Maul as the villain in Obi-Wan, could we get his brother Savage Opress as a villain? I don't think so. I mean, I'll say this. There is definitely more. For those of you who didn't watch Clone Wars, Darth Maul's got a brother, everybody. It certainly makes more sense that could happen. The only problem, of course, is if he ever encountered Obi-Wan, he ain't come back alive. And he would have told his brother that Obi-Wan, that's the thing. He would have told Maul that Obi-Wan's still alive. So I'll say this. It still doesn't make sense, but it doesn't violate canon to have him meet him. So, but still, I think it still just doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't do it myself. Rob, would you do it? Plus, most of the Star Wars audience has no idea who that is anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
How would you approach it?
I mean, I think, look, would that be cool? Probably. Do we need that? I don't necessarily think so. I'd like to see this. What's interesting about this Obi-Wan movie is they were going to make a feature. This Obi-Wan was going to be a feature, and it's been repurposed. That's why, as Ewan McGregor has been saying, he's had to keep this a secret for 3 years because this was supposed to happen a long time ago. So I'm hoping it's something new. All of these connections, canonical connections, are great. And if you want to go back into the EU or the animated shows, fine. I'd rather see something brand new and meet people we've not met before.
All right, next up, Alex Pitt writes, Fallen Order is amazing. I hope you enjoy it too. I hope I enjoy it too, buddy. I'm very excited to try it out. Ryan Lohner writes, this is not a drill. Bob Iger is teaching business management on Masterclass. Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. Who shot at me?
No. Oh, God. Because that sounds like something you would shoot.
I know, because I did my, I did that.
Listen,
for.
This Masterclass, by the way, Masterclass was shot, all the Masterclass stuff was shot in the same building that we used to do the John Campea Show out of at our studio in Hollywood.
Come on.
Yeah. They shot in one of the studios downstairs is where they shot the Masterclass stuff. So They have got, who's the guy who wrote West Wing again?
Aaron Sorkin.
They have Aaron Sorkin doing screenwriting.
Ron Howard directing.
Ron Howard doing directing.
Scorsese too.
Martin Scorsese. They've got Daniel Negreanu, Kid Poker, teaching poker. They get a lot of, they got Bob Iger to do
By the way, dude, Bob Iger's book is great, and my girlfriend Elizabeth she's obsessed with it. She has it on all the time. She's been taking film classes at Pasadena City College. She's making movies, and she's listening to Bob Iger. It's great. I got to get that book. I still can't believe I haven't got it yet. Tron Mitchelson writes, Obi-Wan Episode 1, Obi-Wan wakes up and goes to the shower. Darth Maul is inside. He says, good morning. Title sequence there. Canon is still intact. Nice Dallas reference.
Oh, that's gone over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah, they're
right
like,
there. What? That's gone over a lot, but good deep cut there, Thrawn. I like that. Benny95 writes, Man of Steel is one of my favorite films ever. The music and action is so great. I remember seeing the first teaser and thinking, wow, this looks incredible. The scene that gives me the most goosebumps is Soups being pummeled by the World Machine and raises his hand up to fly up and destroy it. Chills. Dude, listen, you know you can't get me going on Man of Steel. You can't get me going because I will just go on and on about Man of Steel. I love this film. And I know a lot of people don't even like it, which is still confounding to me, but to me it's a top 10 greatest comic book movie of all time. I love this movie. There's so many great, iconic, wonderful imagery in it. I argue, it is a perfectly adapted to the modern context incarnation of Superman. Listen, with Zack Snyder, I don't know that Zack Snyder's ever done or will do anything as great as he did on Man of Steel. It's such an achievement. And Rob, I know you appreciate the film too.
Me too. I mean, I don't we're from the opening scenes when we're seeing this sci-fi version of Krypton. I don't know why people aren't enamored of it. I mean, I get it. It's a different version of Superman than they grew up with in, say, the animated series or in Justice League. I get all that, but it's still, like you, I don't understand why people aren't fans of Man of Steel.
That Benny95 writes, if you could pick only one, what would your favorite scene be? There are many, 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 but I think I need to go back to the one scene that they actually played in the trailer, but it had so much more impact when you actually see it in the movie, when Clark, this young kid who is struggling with, he's just been handed information that would shake an adult's world, let alone a kid. And he says to Pa Kent, can we just keep pretending I'm your son? And listen, Costner is an underrated actor because the way Costner delivers that one simple line, you are my son. God, look at this. Look at the bumps on my arm, Rob. Look at the hair on my arm. I'm getting chills thinking about the scene. Can't we just keep pretending I'm your son? And he grabs him and embraces, you are my son. In a comic book movie, that's my favorite scene. I mean, not of all time. I'm just saying for a comic book movie, that's my favorite scene in that movie. Do you have a particular favorite scene?
The scene I always think about, and it's not a scene. It's the scene where Clark is in the ocean by the whale.
Oh, yes.
And it's just, you've seen images that are evocative like that in certain comic books, but I'm like seeing that in a movie, that is the kind of wonder that I wanted from a Superman film. And I know it's a brief moment, but that image is such a great image because you realize that Superman is part of our world. He's not just saving humanity, he's saving the planet. And so when he stops the world machines at the end of the movie, to me, it's even more poignant because it wasn't just an extinction event for humanity, it was an extinction event for the whole world.
Well put. All right, Chris Hamilton writes, so are the Lego Star Wars shows on Disney Plus canon too? I believe they've already said that they are not. I believe they've already publicly said they're not. Excellent question, but no, they are not canon. Eric Silva Gomez writes, my Disney Plus got fixed. Strength and Honor. Good. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, it really, I said the first morning it opened, I said, I expect by the end of the day this will be. And for most people, their streaming issues were all fixed by the end of the day. Again, they launched over 10 million subscribers on day one. So that was a tall order, but I'm glad you got yours working as well, man. Tyler Yeats writes, I love Regal Unlimited. Seeing Ford v Ferrari for my 4th movie this month already. Jojo Rabbit last night. Dude, I am telling you, I've said it since day one when AMC A-List launched. This is the greatest thing to ever happen to film fandom. If you're somebody who goes to movies more than once a month, and listen, a lot of people maybe go to one movie a month, Rob. And if you do, then you don't need one of these memberships. You honestly don't need A-List, you don't need Regal Unlimited. But if you're a little bit more into movies or would like to be more into movies, nothing has ever come across that's been better for film fans than AMC A-List. Regal and A-List is better than Regal Unlimited, but Regal Unlimited's great if you've got a Regal cinema near you. That Alamo Drafthouse is going to be launching their own subscription service. These are the greatest things ever for exactly those reasons, Tyler, and I'm glad you're getting good use out of your membership. All right, Willow Yang writes, I never knew that I needed to see Keanu Reeves as a tumbleweed in SpongeBob till now. I'm going to admit something. I haven't seen the trailer yet. I saw all the pictures and headlines as Keanu Reeves as a tumbleweed, but I admit I am not a SpongeBob guy. It's just not for me. That's fine. A lot of people love SpongeBob, though, and that's great. It's just not art, Rob. It's just not art. It's something different. Yeah, I'm just teasing. But have you seen the trailer?
No,
I haven't seen it either, but I saw the pictures, and the pictures look hilarious. Let's see. Michael Bradley writes, hello, John. Going in, I thought Last Christmas would be a paint-by-numbers kind of Christmas movie, but it was actually good with a lot of heart. You know what? Last I checked, and let me bring it up here just for the hell of it. I'm going to see where, last I checked, it was about 50%. Christmas, Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, let's see where it's at right now. Last Christmas dipped a little bit. It's at 48%. But I'm telling you what, at 48%, with Last Christmas being at 48%, I'm not going to lie to you. That's about 40% higher than I thought it would be. That's about 40% higher than I thought it would be. Which, hey, full credit to them for getting that. Roughly half the critics are kind of enjoying it. I have no desire to see it. I have absolutely, behold my desire to see Last Christmas, and yea, verily see that there is none. I have no desire to see this whatsoever. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, man, and I'm glad everybody who's enjoying it is enjoying it. I always want people to enjoy the movies they're going to go see. All right, Brandon Blake writes, if I had any doubts about Mandalorian after episode 1, they are gone after seeing 2. I'm 100% in. It was short, but I loved it. I agree. My one disappointment is that these are not hour-long episodes, Rob. That's my one disappointment here. I would rather see hour-long episodes, but that's not what we're getting. Whatever. I ate it up. And that's the important thing.
I had a lot of fun with it too.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are enjoying it. It's not going to be for everybody, understandably, but I dig it. Anthony Lucalano writes, well, Christmas just came early, folks, because season 3 of The Toys That Made Us just dropped on Netflix. Oh,
did it really?
Oh, there you go. That's a good series.
I really love it. And there's also a guy on YouTube who does he has a channel called Analog Toys that's been doing some great stuff. He did a thing on the old Lone Ranger toys that I used to have. It's great, but I love the Toys That Made Us, dude. Love it.
By the way, when I look back at shows like this, Rob, this is a little inside baseball for some of you guys watching. I can't help but think, because I love these documentary style shows. They can be really good. You and I were actually both at one time working on a documentary series with Schnepp. John Schnepp.
Yep.
Was getting together a series. You know, of course, John made this great documentary film, The Death of Superman Lives What Happened, and it spurred the notion for a documentary series, a What Happened series, looking at various movies and things that were going to happen and they didn't happen, and looking at what happened. And I remember, I was at one point, I was attached to be one of the producers at one point, and I still remember, having these creative meetings, I remember with me, Schnepp, Holly Payne, a couple other people around table, like mapping out what are the stories that we need to be telling in this and blah, blah, blah. And there was a lot of interest. And of course, Schnepp passed away. I still think Holly, and for time reasons, I couldn't stay committed to the project, but last I heard, Holly was still going to try to get that series going. I don't know where it stands right now.
I don't either. I shot some stuff for that series and worked on a few episodes, and it would have been great. There was a lot of really cool stuff that they were doing, and John was interviewing some really great people.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to get something like that to keep going. But I think that would have been a great series.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it would have been a great series. All right. Anyway, Toshi Victor writes, could they still move Godzilla vs. Kong to late 2020? They could. I don't see why they couldn't. It's getting late in the game. We're under 4 months away now from that movie coming out. Do you think they might move it, Rob?
I don't know.
Because remember, there still hasn't been, it's not just that we haven't gotten a trailer. There's been no marketing.
No marketing, and there's a lot of, I would imagine, a lot of visual effects. It's got to be a big movie. And I know, look, I'm one of those people, I'll freely admit it. I loved Godzilla King of the Monsters. I know a lot of people didn't. I loved it. And that Criterion Godzilla box set that just came out, woo! But I would love to see King Kong versus Godzilla, but I can't imagine that. How could it be done so quickly? I don't know.
Well, they've been working on it for a while.
I know, but
it's not like they just started working on it. So I don't know. We'll
hopefully
see.
Around Christmas. I'm expecting a trailer for Christmas.
If
time.
not, then I'm going to start to suspect we're going to hear it getting pushed. Or going direct to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Direct to
Frankie Gouge writes, 12% of the world's internet traffic is related to Netflix. And as a matter of fact, it goes beyond that. There have been studies that have shown that between the hours of 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., it's peaked at 40% of North America's traffic in those hours is Netflix related. Now, that's going to start to get spread out more as more and more of these streaming services come out. But also keep this in mind. Streaming video is a huge bandwidth thing. So watching one HD movie on Netflix is akin to hundreds of thousands of views of traffic to other sorts of things. So keep that in mind as well. But you're right. It is a massive part of it. Jared Oberfeld writes, 1 of 2. Finally watched Jerry Maguire for the first time, really.
Wow.
2 thumbs up. John, you have to show me the money because you had me at hello. Now I know where Rob gets his favorite quote from. And I know you've been a champion of this movie for a long time.
Bob Sugar. It ain't show friends. It's show business.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
And I think a lot of people overlooked it, and I think it's just become one of those films where everybody knows about the movie, but they never actually watched it.
By the way, if you haven't seen Jerry Maguire, it's Cameron Crowe. and it's the movie he made. He made Vanilla Sky and then Almost Famous. But the first 10 minutes or 20 minutes of that movie, where you get a insight into the world of sports and sports agents, is one of the great openings of a movie ever.
All right. Next one up, Jason O'Connor writes, will we ever see Angry Hulk again with Mark Ruffalo? Right now, I think it's a coin toss. Maybe if the Russo brothers don't touch it. Maybe, because clearly I believe the Russo brothers were bullied as a child by somebody dressed as the Hulk, which is why they have this lifelong hatred of the Hulk. I don't get it, but whatever. Hopefully they do, but honestly, Jason, I think it's a coin toss. Kyle B. writes, the short film Float, which is on Disney Plus, was the first Pixar film to get me and my feelings because I have 2 autistic siblings and understand how hard it is to be different. What did you think about the short? I thought it was beautiful. The allegory is great. And the little thing at the end, for those of you who've seen it, there's a little message at the end that the director put out talking about his own kid, which is great. And it was very special to my wife because it's the first Pixar thing that features a Filipino family. So that was pretty cool too. So it hit me. I'm not going to lie and say it's my all-time favorite Pixar short, but it's very nice and it's very good. And you're right, it hit you and all. Have you had a chance to see Float yet?
No, I have not.
It's short. It's a
yeah,
short.
I gotta watch it.
Check it out. It's really nice. Thanks for sharing that, Kyle. All right, Zach Bartron writes, 2 films at my local Regal, and I was shocked but happy because they usually play around 30 minutes of trailers. But the 2 films I watched, Last Christmas and Dr. Sleep, had less than 10 minutes at a Regal. Hey, man. Maybe they watched the John Campea Show. I don't know. I doubt it. Maybe they just didn't have their inventory full. I don't know. But that's glorious. That's glorious. That's what it should be, Rob. That's what it should be. None of this BS. Don't get me going on this topic. None of this BS of, hey, showtime's at 7 and the movie starts at 7:28. That's bullshit. They shouldn't do that. But anyway, I'm glad you had that experience. Hopefully that spreads and hopefully that becomes a regular thing at your theater and that spreads to other theaters. Criffing Jaw, Jacques Houston writes, Criffing Jawas. I'm not going to go into it because I can't risk giving away any spoilers. Zach also writes, big surprise, come in small packages. I think the shorter length of The Mandalorian Episode 2 was probably intentional. Star Wars tinfoil. Well, I mean, obviously it's intentional. They don't accidentally go, whoops, did this end up being 30 minutes?
Right.
I think that's one of the reasons one of the things that's keeping the cost down. Because a Star Wars show on this level that's 8 hours long would be double the price of a Star Wars movie at this length at 4 hours long. So yes, it's intentional for sure, but they're making it work. They're making it work. Did you feel anything particularly like was missing from this episode?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, this episode made one of my favorite Vader lines resonate more than ever. Because it was something I always wondered, why did he say that? And in Empire Strikes Back, when Vader's talking to the bounty hunters, he says, no disintegrations. Now we know why he says it.
It completely fits in there. All right. Darth Impact writes, the shroud of cable has fallen, begun. Oh, I see. The shroud of cable has fallen, begun. The streaming wars have. They really have. And listen, the cable networks, no one's talking about cable now. Still by far more people watch cable than watch the streaming networks. I mean, I know it doesn't feel that way because of what's getting all the chatter, but it's still a huge disproportionate number of people watch cable as opposed to streaming. Cable's going to have to do something though to really start to move the needle in the coming years if they're going to stay relevant. And I think the death knell is already tolled. I don't think cable's going to be around for much longer, but they still could be because they still got the vast majority of the audience. Rob, do you see any future there?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, network TV, cable, all anybody talks about streaming and Netflix. I mean, all the shows I watch are either on HBO, Netflix, Hulu, Apple Plus. I mean, I don't even watch network TV shows anymore.
I mean, I still watch the CW stuff. There's
that. Yeah,
I still watch Blacklist. there's still a lot of network shows I'll still see. Not that I watch a lot of TV, but yeah, the wars have begun. Let's see. Darth Impact writes, how will you feel to see the scroll in a Star Wars movie, maybe for the last time? The opening crawl is something they should reintroduce into everything that is Star Wars. They just should. it won't be the last time we see the opening crawl. It's too identified with Star Wars. It will be back. How they'll use it, in which form they'll use it, which projects they choose to use it or not will be up for question. But it will. I have no doubt it'll be back at some point. Rob, do you?
I think it's going to come back. I don't understand. Like the second episode of The Mandalorian, they have that recap. On a lot of shows, they have a recap. You know?
Yeah. Why not use an opening crawl?
Use a crawl. Why are they using a crawl?
Yeah, I agree. Household Films writes, how much do you hate the special edition versions of Jabba's dance number? Where if you're talking about oh
wow, man, I love it when you're a song and dance man. When you bust out, that sounded exactly like the sound.
That was, by the way, that was phonetically correct. That whole thing was 100% phonetically correct. I can't even begin to tell you how much I hate that damn thing.
Oh my god.
You know, screw Sice Noodles. Like I hate that with a deep and abiding hatred. I really do hate that scene so much. It's just terrible. Listen, and I'm sorry. In any home I will ever live in my life, I'm going to build in some corner an altar to George Lucas that I will worship at every day. But, guys, listen, George Lucas became something as a director. He clearly fell out of step. That's all I can say. Like, it's stuff like that.
With the human race.
Yeah. It's stuff like that makes you, oh, they should bring in George. Look, no, they should not. Forever will I worship at his altar for creating Star Wars and what he's done. But no, they should not bring in George Lucas to consult on anything. And I know that'll be a very controversial thing to say at this point, but the Sice Noodle thing is just one drop in the bucket of examples of like, this is, yeah. And you know what's funny thing? I know some people, oddly enough, that don't mind Jar Jar. I don't know how that's possible, but some people don't mind Jar Jar, and some people like the prequels. A bunch of people do, but I don't know anybody. And I'm sure they're out there. I'm just saying I have never in my travels come across a soul that has said, man, I like that Sice Noodles number. I've never seen it. Even people who defend the special, I've never met a single person that has defended that scene. Never. Have you, Rob, ever in all of your travels come across any soul that has said they actually like that scene?
No. No, I haven't.
It's woo. Okay, anyway, we got to keep moving here. Ben Burnside writes, this super chat has spoken. God, I love that line. I have spoken. I'm going to start saying that. ZMG Ruler writes, today's my 30th birthday, John. Remember being 30. Oh, I do. And happy birthday to you, ZMG. May you have a glorious day and a glorious year ahead of you. So happiest of birthdays to you, my friend.
Watch out for the Sandman.
Yeah, it's Ray Gill. That's a nice little reference. Ray Gill writes, John, you are amazing. Oh, thank you so much. I know that you are the most humble guy on the web. I am, yeah. See, not that many people know this, Rob. But I am the most humble guy around. I was so humble that in Sunday school, I got a badge for most humble. However, they took it away because I wore it. That was a terrible joke.
I like it.
Terrible joke. I got a badge for being most humble, but then they took it away because I wore it. Anyway. But seriously, you are amazing. Thank you, Ray. You're my favorite part of the day. Thank you. Dude, listen, seriously, thank you so much for writing that in. It's always nice when people just want to write something in to say something nice. So thank you, dude. I really, really do appreciate that. And I hope you have a fantastic day. And thank you for being here and being a part of our community, dude. All right. Dan Rourke writes, I work at Verizon, and we had a bunch of Disney Plus merch up with Ray on it, and then today we received word that we must take everything with her on it down and destroy it. LOL. Why would that be any idea? Probably just a licensing issue. I mean, 99 times out of 100, it's just a licensing issue. It's nothing more than that.
Or her agents called up and said, we didn't okay some deal with Daisy Ridley and Verizon.
Which I kind of encompass in licensing as well. Like there was a problem or whatever. It's probably just something as simple as that.
I would keep all of that stuff, destroy none of it, take it home and put it up on eBay.
Because it could be the next Revenge of the Sith, Revenge of the Jedi poster situation. You never know, my friend. But it's probably just a technical or license issue. That's what it is 99% of the time. Ray Gill writes, my girl and I started a Star Wars epic, first time for her, watching in chronological order. Feel that she's going to get a better grasp of the overall story. She likes the prequels, hated the acting. On to Rogue One. See, I don't agree. I think the best way to watch it is the way it unfolded for everybody, which is in the release order. That's why I'll always stand by the release order, Rob. What about you?
I'm with you 100%. And I believe in the machete order. Don't even show her Phantom Menace. You know, you go New Hope, Empire, then jump to Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and then Return of the Jedi.
I would never endorse watching Attack of the Clones. Never endorse that.
I like that movie way more than most people do.
Oh my God. I find even a lot of prequel defenders will go, yeah, we don't talk that much about Attack of the Clones. But whatever. It is what it is. That's why this is a beautiful world of film fandom. We all like different things.
It's true.
All right. Let's see. Orange Hand writes, The Mandalorian would become the greatest show ever if they have him remove his helmet to reveal Rick Moranis. I can't breathe in this thing. That's a little bit of a Spaceballs reference. Orange Hand, the comment of the day goes to you, my friend. That would be great. I mean, utterly ridiculous, but man, I would laugh my guts out if they did that. All right. Mr. JG writes, only way I see Maul/Vader and Obi-Wan without breaking canon is if Obi-Wan Kenobi faces his demons in a series of Force visions. Over under 10% likely that this would be cool. I'm going to go under 10% on that. I just don't think it's something that they would do or consider. Plus, I think a lot of fans would just consider that an unfair tease if they did something else. So I'm going to go under, not impossible, but I'm going to go under 10%. Rob?
Me too.
All right. Next up, Eric Huffman writes, what's the possibility that The Rock could influence Warner Brothers and Henry Cavill to come together and do another, zero? The number is 0. A lot of people way overestimate the power and influence that the movie stars have. So the answer to that question is absolute 0. So, well, 1. I'll go 1%. All right, 1. I'm not going to say complete impossibility. So go ahead, pull a Dumb and Dumber and say, so you're saying there's a chance, but highly unlikely. Rob, do you see that?
No, I think you're right about that.
All right. Xander Bethel writes, why do you think we never saw Obi-Wan with a green lightsaber? Do you think we might see him wield one in the new Disney Plus show? Thanks and stay sweaty. Why? Xander, I think the better question is why would we? Because his lightsaber is what his lightsaber is. I don't see there being a purpose or a rhyme or a reason or any significance at all to the issue. So I don't think there's any reason why he would, and I don't think there's any reason why he wouldn't. So I don't know. Do you see more into that than I do, Rob?
He never had to construct a new lightsaber.
Yeah, there's that too. So I don't really see there being any purpose to it. Anyway, Terry Giordano writes, Mandalorian episode 2 was great, but damn, I want a full hour. Yeah, but then maybe it would have been possible with the expense of it, because damn, it's expensive. All right, Devontae Brown writes, it finally happened, John. Did see that Monique is trying to sue Netflix for the discrimination she accused them of not long ago. I thought that died. I know nothing about it. I look, and I could be, so I'm going to say something here that I probably even shouldn't say because I'm not even sure that this is accurate. So let me just throw that huge asterisk. But I remember vaguely that situation coming up, and if I think it's something along the lines of, I remember thinking at the time, no, Monique, it's not that you're being discriminated against, it's that you're not that talented. But I might be remembering it completely wrong, so I don't want to stick my foot in it too much at this point. Bottom line is, Devontae, I don't care because I don't know enough about the situation. Right. Do you know more about the situation?
No, I just read something briefly the other day about that. I don't know anything about the situation. All right.
Nosferatu writes, I didn't know that I wanted to hear an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger as Uncle Owen. Oh, no, that Christian did that. On Dark Side Lights, somebody asked him to do Arnold Schwarzenegger as Uncle Owen. Christian did it, and it was very funny. It was very, very funny. As a matter of fact.
Harvest is when I need you. Harvest is when I need you the most.
It was. He did something like that. Why you want to go get the power converters? I can't do Arnold at all.
I can't either.
But it was really good. It was really, really funny. Jeremy Miller writes, neither Mandalorian nor Kuiil, Nick Nolte, heard of the bounty's ability. Most interesting thing of the episode to me must be far away in the galaxy. Well, I think there's a huge mystery surrounding that species. Look, the species doesn't even have a name officially in canon. There's not even a name for the species. So, I mean, listen, Mandalorian saw, you know what? Can't talk about it. Can't talk about it.
He doesn't know.
I will go into later this afternoon. I'm going to do an open spoiler discussion live video about episode 2 of The Mandalorian, but I cannot go into. I almost caught myself there. I'm not going to go into details because it's still early in the morning. A lot of people haven't watched it yet, so hopefully by later this afternoon, more people have seen it. All right. Anyway, but you bring up. I totally see what you're saying though, Jeremy. All right, Man Mountain Gherkin 23 ranking 1980s Ghostbusters. Number 1. Number 2. I don't know anybody. Rob, have you in all of your travels come across any soul that would put that in a different order?
No.
No.
Ghostbusters 2 does not hold a candle to
no,
Ghostbusters 1.
It's actually not all that good. I mean, a lot of
It's
people like
not
to
all that
pretend
good
it
at
is,
all.
but it's not. I mean, also, if you love it, that's great. But I'm just saying I've never come across anybody who would do it differently. Jack Hamilton writes, John Wick versus the Kurgan. Who gets to the head first? Kurgan wins. Kurgan's immortal. So, and John Wick is not going to beat the Kurgan in a sword fight. I mean, if Kurgan was completely made mortal, then yes, John Wick would win, but I don't see it any other way. Rob, do you?
No.
But the Kurgan has an advantage. He has a supernatural ability that makes it a bit of an advantage. All right, Jesse writes, Tech Minute, have you seen Motorola's new Razr flip phone? I have. Out of all the foldable phones, I think it's got to be the best design. What do you think? Well, listen, so I'll say this quick because I do love tech stuff. Like the other foldable phones, which open, like here's the phone, and then it opens this way to basically turn your phone into a mini tablet.
Right.
I like more screen real estate. I would totally use like a Mac or an iPad mini as my phone if I could. There's something, I like bigger screens. So I'm always going to be predisposed towards that. But I'll tell you what, that new Motorola Razr is pretty damn cool. It is really cool. And I miss that ability to end a call and snap it shut. But now they've got they've also got the screen on the outside and it turns the main camera into your selfie camera. There's a lot of great things about it. But did you see the price tag?
Yeah.
$1,500.
It's like, dude, come on.
So it's expensive, but it's new technology.
I had a Razr. I had a Motorola Razr. I loved
Hello,
it.
Moto.
Hello, Moto.
I mean, I think it's actually, I mean, the price point is going to put it out of reach for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But listen, a lot of smartphones today are like $1,000 or more. I mean, that seems to be where a lot of them start now. So it's not, but aside from the inhibiting factor of the price point, I think a lot of people are going to get this phone.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty cool. I got to admit, Jesse. All right, where are we at here? Okay, last couple of questions. I think we're going to get through them all with Rob here. If you've got a couple of extra minutes, Rob.
Sure.
Mr. Sketch 22 writes, "Going to see Ford v Ferrari today after work, dude. Go watch it and enjoy. I love that damn movie." He also writes, "It's refreshing to see a non-comic book movies in theaters. This coming from a huge comic book nerd. Also, I appreciate the content you guys provide. Number one, thank you so much for that. And listen." The vast, infinitely vast majority of films in the theaters today are, despite what Martin Scorsese says, are non-comic book films. And, you know, you've got right now some movies in theater that are so good. So get out there and see them. I'm glad you're going to go see Ford v Ferrari. I think you're going to have a good day. Again, for me, number 4 best film of the year so far. Ryan Cleary writes, "The Way Back looks amazing. Oscar-level performance." And who knows? Listen, it is still confusing to me, Rob, how Ben Affleck did not win. He didn't even get nominated for Best Director for Argo. The reason that confuses me is because the Directors Guild of America, all the directors, named him Best Director of the Year that year. You know who makes up the directors branch of the Academy that comes up with the nominees? Those same directors.
Yeah.
How he won Best Director of the Year at the Directors Guild of the DGA Awards, and then the directors branch of the Academy didn't even nominate him, and the picture won Best Picture of the Year, which I guess directed itself. And the funny thing is, I remember when I was with Ben Affleck, and I was talking to him about Argo. When I was talking about Argo, the thing I said to him off camera was, "Dude, if you don't get nominated for Best Director for this was before the Academy Awards, obviously." I said, "I'm straight up going to go slash somebody's tires." And well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. Okay, but and then I just couldn't believe that he didn't get nominated. But anyway, he's won an Academy Award for writing. He's gotten like Golden Globes, who cares? Directors Guild. He got all the accolades for directing. Be nice to see him get an acting one here. And who knows, maybe this could be it, or maybe it's terrible. We won't know for sure. All right, Piggy66 writes, disappointed by The Mandalorian. Really disappointed by The Mandalorian Episode 2. It's really just a live-action cartoon. No depth or character development, just Episode 2, and it feels like filler. Listen, that is the beautiful thing about the subjectivity of the visual art form, is that different people are going to feel different ways about it. And your opinion of it is no more and no less valid than mine. All I can say is that I personally disagree with that. I thought it had a great sense of adventure. I thought it's got a slow reveal of the Mandalorian. We're seeing the story through the Mandalorian's eyes, his discovering understanding of this little creature, the attachment this little creature is obviously starting to form with the Mandalorian. We got to see some great Star Wars lore in there. I won't go into what that lore was. A little bit later today. Come back and join me later. I gotta disagree. To me, this did not feel at all like a filler. To me, this felt like this is the start of this series to me. But I don't know, Rob, how do you think?
I think the one interesting thing about this is that there's no one's face that you can relate to. Like, this episode did not have anybody human in it.
No
really.
Human faces, yep.
There's no human faces, so you can't. I think as we as human beings, I understand why this is essentially an animated show. It's made that way. I mean, it was shot in a warehouse in Manhattan Beach. I mean, they're not out in the desert somewhere.
They didn't go to Tanzania to film this?
Yeah, I mean, it is like an animated show. I think it feels that way for a reason.
All right, next up comes us from another Skywalker who sends in an incredibly generous super chat. Thank you so much, dude, for supporting the channel on that level, man. That's incredibly generous of you, and thank you for that. All of us here appreciate that very much, my friend. All right, if Charlie's Angels makes more money than Terminator or Dr. Sleep, I'm going to be so mad. Here's the funny thing. It very well might. Charlie's Angels very well could end up making more money than Terminator. And I don't think it'll make more money than Terminator overall. But there is a legitimate chance here it could, I'm not saying it will, but could make more money opening weekend by all the... But I can't remember. Can you look this up, Rob? Like, how much money did Dr. Sleep make on its opening weekend? I think it was like 15 or 14. I'll tell you right now, it's going to make more money than Dr. Sleep. And Dr. Sleep is by far a better movie. Dr. Sleep is by far a better movie. I really like Dr. Sleep. And I thought Terminator Dark Fate was actually not bad. Some people crap on it, but whatever. They've got their issues. And it's not for everybody because of subjectivity. But I actually thought it wasn't bad. Not great, but not bad. But I think Dr. Sleep made 14 or 15 million opening weekend. And we know Terminator made in the 30s. So... And they were projecting Charlie's Angels. They were projecting 30-ish.
It debuted to 14.1 million.
That's Dr. Sleep. That movie's going to lose them a lot of money, which is really unfortunate because it's a good movie. But yeah, man. I mean, it's weird. But listen, I think, Rob, you brought up a great point the other day. I think there's just a lot of people who've not... I think we overestimate how many people have seen The Shining. I think you were right about. I think there's just a lot of people who've just never seen The Shining in this movie-going demographic, and so therefore this one had no appeal to them.
Well, and that's the funny thing. I mean, we as film fans have to remember when we're ensconced in our bubble of rumors and spoilers and reading the internet and trailers and watching shows like this. We are not the general population. It seems like we are because everybody's a fan of this stuff. But you know what? There's a lot of think about this. How many girls are excited to go see Charlie's Angels? You know, you've got some female actresses that girls have grown up with. I mean, is the female audience excited about Terminator Dark Fate even if Sarah Connor's in it? No, because they don't know Linda Hamilton. I mean, if you remember, T2 is from 91. I mean, that's a long time ago. Kristen Stewart, you got girls who are Kristen Stewart fans from the Twilight movies. They're going to go see this movie. You've got, because of Aladdin, there's fans of the other, Elizabeth Banks from the Pitch Perfect movies. I mean, there's a lot in this film that appeals to a demographic that we don't remember goes to movies as much as us, because I know from my own YouTube channel, my demographics are 97% of my audience is male. And when a movie like this comes out, we forget as film fans, girls are excited about this. This could easily outgross Terminator Dark Fate.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So don't be surprised. Again, thank you for that large super chat, man. We really appreciate the support, dude. All right, Oscar Rosenwald writes, a bit of a random question. Why don't we consider inflation when comparing box office? I've been asked this question on this show 1,000 times. All right, basic thing is this. And there are people who disagree with me, and that's okay because you're allowed to be wrong. The inflation is a variable. Like when we're talking about dollar to dollar, there are variables. Inflation is definitely a variable, and it's a big variable. Why don't we take that variable into connection when talking about box office? The main reason we don't, and the main reason why the industry, which understands that inflation is a variable, but decides to keep it just going on a dollar to dollar equal basis when talking about box office is this, is that there are dozens of variables. There are dozens of variables that when you're saying, a movie that opened in 1984 can't be seen as an apples to apples comparison with a movie that opens in 2019. That's true because there's this variable of inflation. Yes, but then there's dozens of other variables. A variable like how many other movies opened in a month back in 1984 compared to how many movies now open in a month today. It's a vastly different number. How much was the video game industry, which is a huge industry that takes up people's expendable income, huge thing that simply was not nearly as much of a factor back in 1984. That's one of the variables. Back in the early 80s, you had 18 television channels. My TV, when I was a little kid, was at 13 channels. Now, we have streaming services. We have different types of television. We have hundreds of things. So much of the narrative storytelling options are available today that movies back in the early 80s didn't have to contend with. That's a variable. And as you go on and on and on and on down the list, there are dozens of variables that make it a non-apples to apples comparison. You therefore, and this is the way the industry has approached it, you have two choices. You either don't take the variables into consideration and keep it on an apples, understanding that it's not a perfect comparison, but you either take none of the variables into consideration and keep it as a dollar to dollar comparison, or you take all of them into comparison. You don't cherry pick and hand select, let's take this variable into consideration, but let's not take any of the other things into consideration at the same time. And that is why, in all of their wisdom, the entertainment industry over the years has decided that the best, not perfect, but the best approach, Rob, is to keep it on a dollar to dollar scale, even though it's not a perfect comparison. And I agree with them. If you start taking one variable, you got to start taking all the others, and it just becomes a mess. I don't know. Again, it's not a perfect system, Rob, but how would you approach that?
I think you just laid it out correctly. I mean, movies cost more money now. The world is a different place. There's demographic changes. There's the amount of movie theaters. People's entertainment choices, like you pointed out, are very different now than they were back then. It's not the same. And ultimately, it's not just inflation. It's the whole world has moved. So like you said, there's probably 1,000 different variables that have changed. But box office, how much money a movie made, that seems to be such an easy indicator. But it's not. It's superficially it is, but it really doesn't mean much.
All right, again, we could go into this for an hour, but we've answered that many, many times. But anyway, I hope that gives you some sort of, it doesn't mean you have to agree with it, because I know a lot of people don't agree with it, and that's totally great. But that's kind of the underlying basis. All right, last few questions here, guys. We're going to get through these pretty quick here. Jonathan Hernandez writes, who's the badass with the beard? Tell you what, man, I said on my show somebody wrote in yesterday, Rob, when you weren't here, and said, the beard on Rob's really working. I said, you know what? And if you would have asked me, said, hey, John, what would you think about Rob growing a beard? I probably said, no, I don't think it'll suit him. But now I see it.
It's funny. I know.
Glorious.
I've never had a beard before, and I just had it trimmed up. Elizabeth is a stylist, and she trimmed, and I was like, wow. And I just have to lose 40 pounds to get my face really thin so I can look like a supervillain. I want to look like I'm going to wear a patch.
But then, whenever you're saying anything profound, you have to stroke the beard as you're saying something profound.
All right.
$1
million.
Kinky Sphincter writes, ready for the Mandalorian hot toy in full Beskar.
Bro, I ordered that. It doesn't come out for a year.
Yeah, but maybe you'll get it before season 2 opens. I mean, there you go. I want that Nick Nolte figure too.
I know they're not making that so far.
I can see why. Christopher Chow writes, Joker officially passes the $1 billion mark today. We knew it was going to be close. I didn't think it would get there, but it could. I said it's going to be close one way or the other. I didn't think it would, but it looks like it's just going to crawl over that mark. Again, it wouldn't have mattered if it didn't, because its accomplishments can't be undermined, even if it didn't get to a billion thing. But it should be today that it just crawls over that mark. Gus V writes, McClunky, again, that goal got old really fast.
Yeah.
Francisco C writes, going to see Irishman Saturday, November 23rd. I have spoken. When does it come out on Netflix?
27th.
On the 27th. That's when I'll be seeing it. I'll be seeing it on the 27th. But you've got your tickets for it.
Yes, I do.
When are you seeing it?
Sunday night.
Sunday night, you're seeing it. So we'll look forward to that Monday, hearing you talk about it. All right. Darth Evo Knievel writes, seeing Dr. Sleep Sunday, Terminator was decent. I agree. I thought Terminator, not great, but I thought it was a decent little movie. Look, certainly the best Terminator we've had since Terminator 2. Again, not a high benchmark, but there it is. And I think you're really going to enjoy Dr. Sleep. I think you really are. All right, Suthius writes, hey guys, nice to meet you. Have a chill day. God, yeah, nice to meet you. And Redhead Guy just sends in a super chat to be supportive. So thank you for that, Redhead Guys. And guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of the show. Of course, I want to thank the one and the only, the glorious Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, who's been here. Rob, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations, the show about something.
And you guys can, of course, just follow me on all the various social medias, just at John Campea. I'm most active on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So you guys can just follow me there. And guys, don't forget, while you're here, why don't you click on that subscribe button? Become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel. We're closing in on 200,000, Rob. Closing on 200,000 subscribers. We're really excited about that. Closing in on 100 million views as well, which is also very exciting. So thank you to all you guys for that. And a special thank you to all you guys who have been here making this show a part of your day. We love that we get to be a part of the film fan community with you. And an extra special thanks to all of you guys who send in those super chat questions, because number one, you give us great fun things to talk about. And number two, you support the channel while you're doing that. And all of us here, thank you for that. All right, guys, that will do it from us for now. Thank you so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.